The great crystal dome of Centauri Prime gleamed under 3 suns. Inside the massive building, hundreds of alien beings sat in rows of floating chairs. Their voices filled the air with worried sounds in dozens of different languages. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking trees. But they all shared the same look of fear in their eyes. Admiral Kexthara stood at the center of the room. Her blue skin was darker than usual, and her 4 arms moved as she spoke. The Vorthic Empire had ruled space for 2,000 years, but now even they were scared. "The Devourer Hive has awakened," she said. Her voice carried across the room. Through translation devices. "Our deep space sensors detected their first movement 3 days ago. They destroyed the mining world of Kepler-7 in less than 6 hours." A wave of gasps and clicking sounds came from the crowd. The Devourers were the stuff of nightmares. Ancient stories told of massive creatures that ate entire worlds. Most aliens thought they were just scary tales told to children. But the stories were real. Zephalon, the cerulean tactician, activated a holographic display. His gray skin seemed to glow as he pointed at the moving images. "Our computers have run every possible battle plan. The results are always the same. We lose." The display showed the galaxy with red dots moving toward the center. Each red dot was a devourer ship, and each one was as big as a small moon. They moved slowly but steadily, eating everything in their path. "How long do we have?" asked a representative from the aquatic collective. Her voice bubbled through her breathing mask. 6 months until they reach the core worlds," Zephalon replied. "Maybe 8 if we can slow them down." "What about evacuation?" Someone called out from the back. "The Andromeda Galaxy has agreed to take refugees," Admiral Kexthara said. "But we can only save a small number. Most of our people will have to stay and fight." The room erupted in chaos. Representatives began shouting in their own languages. Some demanded more ships. Others wanted to flee immediately. A few suggested surrendering and hoping the Devourers would show mercy. In a small observation booth high above the main floor, Kyle Martinez watched everything unfold. He was just a communications officer from New Boston, a human colony on the edge of known space. His job was to monitor council meetings and report back to Earth's government. Usually, the meetings were boring discussions about trade routes and mining rights. Today was different. Kyle's fingers moved quickly over his control panel. He was recording everything, but he also noticed something troubling. The Council's evacuation plans made no mention of Earth or any human colonies. Humans were listed as a Level 2 species in the Council's files. That meant they were considered too primitive to matter in galactic affairs. "The Outer Rim colonies will serve as a buffer," Admiral Kexthara was saying. "Their sacrifice will buy us time to evacuate the important worlds." Kyle's blood ran cold. The Outer Rim included human space. Earth had only been in contact with the Galactic Council for 50 years. In that time, humans had built a few small colonies and traded peacefully with alien merchants. They had never been involved in any wars or conflicts. The Council saw humans as harmless farmers and miners. Earth's military was considered a joke by galactic standards. Human ships were small and slow compared to alien vessels. Their weapons were simple projectile systems instead of advanced energy beams. Most aliens thought humans were too peaceful to be good fighters. Kyle activated his emergency transmitter. He had to warn Earth about what was coming. His hands shook as he began coding the message. If the Council found out what he was doing, they would arrest him. But he could not let his people die without warning. "Attention Council Security, A," voice announced through the speakers. "Unauthorized transmission detected in Observation Booth 7. Kyle's heart hammered in his chest. He had maybe 30 seconds before they reached him. He finished coding the message and hit the send button. The transmission shot out through subspace toward Earth at faster than light speed. The door to his booth burst open. 2 Vorthix security officers entered, their weapons drawn. They were huge, even by alien standards, with thick armor and glowing red eyes. "Step away from the controls," one of them ordered. Kyle raised his hands and stood up. Slowly. "I was just taking notes," he said. The officer checked his equipment and found the transmission records. "You sent classified information to an unauthorized recipient." "My people have a right to know," Kyle said. "The Council is planning to let them die. Your people are irrelevant," the second officer said. "They lack the technology to fight the Devourers. Their death will serve the greater good." Kyle was dragged from the booth and taken to a holding cell. But his message was already racing through space toward Earth. In 12 hours, it would reach the Sol system. The Council thought humans were too weak to matter. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Back in the Council chamber, the evacuation plans continued. Ships were being loaded with the most important alien citizens. Ancient artifacts and cultural treasures were being packed for transport. The greatest military minds in the galaxy were preparing to run away. None of them considered that somewhere in the outer rim, a species they had dismissed as primitive was about to do something completely unexpected. Humans were about to prove that sometimes the greatest strength comes from being underestimated. The Devourers were coming, and the galaxy was about to discover what human Warcraft really meant. The message from Kyle Martinez reached Earth's communications center in Geneva exactly 12 hours after he sent it. The night shift operator, Maria Santos, almost dismissed it as a prank. The contents seemed too incredible to be real. Ancient aliens eating planets? The entire galaxy running away? But the authentication codes checked out. Within minutes, emergency alarms were ringing in government buildings across Earth. President Lisa Chung was pulled from her sleep and rushed to the Situation Room beneath the White House. Military leaders from around the world joined the emergency video conference. "Is this information reliable?" President Chung asked. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice carried authority that made everyone listen. General Jake Morrison, head of Earth's Space Command, studied the data on his tablet. "Kyle Martinez has been our observer with the Galactic Council for 3 years. His reports have always been accurate. I believe this is real." Admiral Beth Collins, commander of Earth's small space fleet, shook her head. 60 ships against creatures that eat planets? We don't stand a chance." "The Council doesn't even plan to warn us," said Dr. Alex Reed, director of the Human Defense Initiative. "They've written us off as acceptable losses." President Chang looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some looked scared. Others seemed angry. A few appeared ready to give up. "What are our options?" "We could try to evacuate," suggested Secretary of Defense Paul Johnson. "Load up transport ships and head for empty space." "Where would we go?" General Morrison asked. "Our ships are too slow to reach another galaxy. We'd be flying blind into the void." "We could try to contact the Devourers," offered Ambassador Helen. "Clark, maybe negotiate some kind of peace treaty." Dr. Reed laughed bitterly. From what Kyle reported, these things don't negotiate. They just eat. Admiral Collins stood up and walked to the large display screen. "There is another option. We fight." The room fell silent. The idea seemed impossible. Earth's military was designed for conflicts between human nations, not galactic warfare. Their biggest warship was smaller than a Galactic Council patrol vessel. Fight with what? Secretary Johnson asked. "We had 60 ships and maybe 100,000 troops. The aliens we trade with treat our weapons like toys." "That's exactly why we might have a chance," Dr. Reed said. He activated his own display and showed images of human military history. Every time a smaller force defeated a larger one, it was because they did something unexpected. General Morrison nodded slowly. The aliens think in patterns. They've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They won't expect us to be different. President Chong leaned forward. What do you need? Everything, Dr. Reed replied. Every factory, every mine, every shipyard. We need to build a fleet that can fight like humans instead of aliens. How long do we have? The president asked. 6 months, Admiral Collins said. Maybe less if the Devourers move faster than expected. The next few hours changed everything on Earth. Every major nation agreed to put aside their differences and work together. Factories that made cars began producing spacecraft parts. Mining operations on Mars and the asteroid belt worked around the clock. Even civilian ships were modified for military use. Captain Sam Walker led the shipbuilding effort. He was a former Navy engineer who had designed Earth's first space warships. Now he was tasked with creating something entirely new. Forget everything the aliens taught us about space combat, he told his team. We're going to build ships that fight like humans. The new designs were smaller and faster than traditional alien vessels. Instead of massive beam weapons, they carried hundreds of small missiles. Instead of thick armor, they relied on speed and maneuverability. Each ship was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could react faster than any biological pilot. Aliens had always laughed at human technology. Their computers were better, their materials stronger, their weapons more powerful. But they had never seen humans adapt something for war. Within weeks, Earth's industrial capacity was producing weapons at a rate that shocked even the humans themselves. Captain Walker's team worked 18-hour days. They tested new designs in Earth's orbital shipyards and scrapped anything that didn't work perfectly. The ships that emerged looked nothing like the elegant alien vessels humans had seen before. They were angular, aggressive, and built for one purpose: killing. Meanwhile, ground forces prepared for a different kind of war. Colonel Nick Foster trained special teams to fight inside alien ships. They studied every piece of information about Devourer biology and technology. If they could board enemy vessels, they might be able to disable them from within. The training was brutal. Soldiers learned to fight in zero gravity, in toxic atmospheres, and against enemies that might be 10 times their size. They practiced with weapons that fired explosive rounds instead of energy beams. The aliens considered projectile weapons primitive, but humans knew they could be devastatingly effective. Dr. Reed's scientists worked on the biggest challenge of all: understanding the Devourers themselves. The ancient aliens operated as a hive, mind, sharing thoughts, and coordinating attacks across vast distances. This made them incredibly efficient, but it might also be their weakness. If we can disrupt their communication, Dr. Reed explained to the president, we might be able to turn their coordination against them. The work was exhausting, but humans had one advantage the aliens lacked: desperation. They were fighting for their home, their families, their entire species. There was no backup planet, no escape route, no place to run. They would win or they would die. As the weeks passed, Earth's space fleet grew. The ships were ugly by alien standards, but they were perfectly designed for human tactics. Each vessel could operate independently or as part of a swarm. They could change course instantly, strike without warning, and disappear before the enemy could respond. The Galactic Council's evacuation continued. Alien refugees fled toward distant galaxies, carrying stories of the approaching doom. None of them mentioned the humans they were leaving behind. To them, Earth was just another world that would soon be consumed. But on Earth, something unprecedented was happening. An entire species was preparing for war with a determination that would have amazed the fleeing aliens. Humans were about to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened their home. The Devourers were coming, and humanity was ready to meet them. The first Devourer ships appeared on the edge of human space like dark stars against the void. Each bioship was massive, its organic hull pulsing with alien life. They moved in perfect formation, their path calculated to consume every inhabited world in their way. Lieutenant Commander Amy Stone watched the enemy fleet through her ship's sensors. She commanded the reconnaissance vessel Swift Arrow, one of the new human designs built for speed and stealth. Her mission was simple: get close enough to study the Devourers without being detected. "How many do you count?" asked her second-in-command, Lieutenant Tony Garcia. 12 primary vessels," Amy replied. "Each one is bigger than anything in our fleet. But look at how they move." The Devourers traveled in a straight line, maintaining exact distances between their ships. They made no attempt to scout ahead or protect their flanks. Their confidence was absolute. "They're not even trying to hide," Garcia observed. "It's like they don't expect any resistance." Amy activated the long-range scanner. The readings made her stomach turn. The Devourer ships weren't just carrying weapons. They were weapons. Each vessel was a living creature, grown over centuries to consume matter and convert it into more bioships. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "They're not using fuel. They're powered by digesting whatever they eat." The Swift Arrow followed the Devourer fleet from a safe distance. Amy watched as they reached the outer system of Kepler-7, where a small human mining colony had been established. The colonists had been evacuated weeks ago, but the automated equipment was still running. What happened next would haunt Amy's dreams for the rest of her life. The Devourers didn't destroy the planet, they consumed it. Massive tendrils emerged from their ships and burrowed into the surface. The planet's crust began to crack and glow as its matter was broken down and absorbed. Within hours, Kepler-7 was gone, leaving only empty space and 12 slightly larger bioships. "Dear God," Garcia whispered, "they're not just conquering worlds. They're eating them." Amy transmitted everything back to Earth's command center. The footage was shown to every human military leader within hours. The message was clear. There would be no negotiation, no surrender, no mercy. The Devourers existed only to consume. The first battle took place 3 days later at Proxima Centauri. The star system had been humanity's first interstellar colony, home to 50,000 people. The colonists had been evacuated, but the system's space stations and orbital platforms remained. Captain Ryan Burke commanded the experimental warship, Defiance. It was one of the first ships built according to human war doctrine, fast, heavily armed, and designed to fight in ways no alien had ever seen. "Remember," Burke told his crew over the intercom, "we're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to learn how to win the next one." The Devourers approached Proxima Centauri with the same methodical precision they had shown everywhere else. They expected to find empty space and easy prey. Instead, they found 30 human warships waiting for them. The battle began when the Devourers were still millions of miles away. Human missiles, launched from extreme range, struck the bioships in coordinated volleys. The aliens' organic armor absorbed most of the damage, but the attacks achieved something more important. They got the Devourers' attention. The alien ships changed course to engage the human fleet. Their weapons were massive biocannons that fired bursts of destructive energy. But the humans refused to fight on alien terms. "Scatter formation," Burke ordered. "Hit and run, just like we practiced." The human ships split into small groups and attacked from different directions. They would fire their weapons and then retreat before the Devourers could respond effectively. It was a tactic borrowed from ancient naval warfare, adapted for space combat. The aliens were confused. They had fought thousands of battles across the galaxy, but always against enemies who tried to match their strength with strength. The human ships were too small and too fast to destroy easily, but too numerous to ignore. "They're trying to swarm us," Garcia reported from his position on the Defiance's bridge. "But our ships are keeping their distance." The battle lasted 6 hours. The humans lost 8 ships, but they accomplished their primary objective: prove the Devourers could be fought. More importantly, they gathered crucial intelligence about alien weaknesses. Amy Stone, monitoring the battle from her reconnaissance ship, noticed something important. "The Devourers are coordinating their attacks," she reported, "but there's a delay. They're sharing information through some kind of network." Dr. Reed, listening from Earth's command center, felt a spark of hope. If they're using a communication system, we might be able to disrupt it. The Devourers eventually drove the human fleet away from Proxima Centauri and consumed the system's planets. But their victory came at a cost. For the first time in centuries, they had faced an enemy that fought back effectively. News of the battle spread through the galaxy's communication networks. The Galactic Council, still in the process of evacuation, received reports that the primitive humans had actually engaged the Devourers in combat. Admiral Kexthara read the reports with disbelief. "This is impossible. Human weapons cannot damage Devourer bioships." Cephalon, the cerulean tactician, studied the battle recordings with growing fascination. "They're not trying to destroy the bioships directly. They're using harassment tactics to disrupt the Devourer's feeding process." "What difference does that make?" Kexthara asked. "The humans will still lose." "Maybe," Cephalon replied, "but they're learning. Each battle teaches them something new about how to fight these creatures." Back on Earth, the human military was indeed learning. The data from Proxima Centauri was analyzed by thousands of scientists and strategists. They discovered that the Devourer's strength was also their weakness, their absolute reliance on coordination and pattern. General Morrison addressed the planet's military leaders. "We can't beat them in a straight fight, but we don't have to. We just need to confuse them long enough to find their weak spot." Captain Walker's shipyards increased production. The new vessels were even more specialized, designed for specific roles in the human fleet. Some were built for long-range harassment. Others were designed to penetrate enemy defenses. A few were constructed as mobile weapons platforms that could unleash devastating attacks before retreating. The Devourers continued their advance toward Earth, consuming everything in their path. But now they faced constant harassment from human forces. Small groups of ships would appear without warning, attack, and disappear. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of warfare. Amy Stone led many of these raids. Her reconnaissance ship had been modified with new weapons and stealth systems. She specialized in hit-and-run attacks that gathered intelligence while inflicting damage. "They're getting frustrated," she reported after one particularly successful raid. "The bioships are changing their formations, trying to counter our tactics." Dr. Reed smiled when he heard this. "Good. Frustration leads to mistakes. And mistakes are what we need if we're going to survive." The galaxy watched in amazement as the humans continued to fight. What had started as a hopeless last stand was becoming something unprecedented, a successful resistance against the Devourers. The question was whether humanity could learn fast enough to survive the final battle that was coming. The reports arrived at the Galactic Council's emergency headquarters on a remote world in the Andromeda Galaxy. Admiral Kexthara read them 3 times before she could believe what she was seeing. The humans were not just fighting the Devourers. They were winning battles. "This is impossible," she said to Cephalon. "Our best fleets barely slowed the Devourers down. How are these primitives succeeding where we failed?" Cephalon studied the battle recordings that had been transmitted across the galaxy. The footage showed human ships darting between massive bioships like angry insects. They struck without warning and disappeared before the Devourers could respond. "They're not fighting like any species we've encountered," he said. "Look at their attack patterns. They're completely random." The cerulean tactician was fascinated by what he saw. For thousands of years, galactic warfare had followed predictable rules. Fleets met in organized formations. Battles were won by superior firepower and numbers. The humans were breaking every rule of space combat. They're using chaos as a weapon. Zephalon continued. The Devourers can't predict what they'll do next because they don't follow any logical pattern. Meanwhile, in human space, General Morrison was implementing Operation Hornet's Nest. The strategy was simple. Make the Devourers advance as painful as possible. Every time the bioships tried to feed, human forces would attack. Every time they tried to coordinate, human jamming systems would disrupt their communications. Commander Tony Garcia had been promoted to lead the strike teams that specialized in boarding actions. His job was to get inside Devourer bioships and cause as much damage as possible before escaping. Remember, he told his team as they prepared for another mission, "We're not trying to destroy these things from the inside. We're trying to give them indigestion." The boarding pods were another human innovation. Small, fast, and nearly invisible. To alien sensors, they could penetrate the organic hulls of bioships and deliver teams of soldiers directly into the enemy's vital systems. Garcia's team had perfected the technique over dozens of missions. They would cut their way into the bioship's nervous system and plant explosive charges. The damage wouldn't kill the creature, but it would cause pain and confusion that disrupted its ability to coordinate with the rest of the fleet. "It's like giving them a headache," explained Dr. Kate Murphy, the scientist who had designed the boarding pods. "A really, really bad headache." The Devourers had never encountered an enemy that fought from inside their own bodies. Their bioships were designed to consume external threats, not deal with internal infections. The human boarding teams were like a virus that the aliens couldn't cure. But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Reed's research team discovered how the Devourers communicated. Amy Stone's reconnaissance missions had provided crucial data about the aliens' behavior patterns. "They're using quantum entanglement," Dr. Reed explained to the military leadership. "Each bioship is connected to every other ship through quantum particles. That's how they coordinate their attacks across vast distances." The discovery was revolutionary. Quantum communication was supposedly impossible to intercept or disrupt. But the humans had found a way. "If we can generate quantum interference," Dr. Reed continued, "we can break their connection. The bioships will lose their ability to work together." The device they built was nicknamed the Migraine by the technicians who constructed it. It was a quantum disruption generator that could sever the psychic links between Devourer bioships. The effect would be temporary, but it might be enough to turn the tide of battle. The first test of the weapon came during a major engagement at the Jupiter system. The Devourers had arrived to consume the gas giant's moons, but they found the entire human fleet waiting for them. Captain Walker commanded the new flagship Retribution, a massive vessel built specifically to carry the quantum disruptor. The ship was surrounded by hundreds of smaller vessels, each one armed with the latest human weapons. "All ships, prepare for Operation Migraine," Walker announced. "Remember, we only get one shot at this." The battle began with the usual human tactics. Small ships darted in and out of the Devourer formation, firing missiles and retreating before the aliens could respond. But this time, the harassment was just a distraction. When the bioships moved to engage the human fleet, Walker activated the quantum disruptor. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Devourer's perfect coordination dissolved into chaos. Battleships collided with each other. Weapons fired in random directions. The aliens' greatest strength became their greatest weakness. "It's working," shouted the weapons officer. "They're attacking each other." The human fleet pressed their advantage. While the Devourers were confused and disorganized, human ships moved in for close-range attacks. Missiles and energy weapons poured into the bioships' vulnerable spots. For the first time in the war, the aliens were taking more damage than they were inflicting. The battle lasted 12 hours. When it was over, 3 Devourer bioships had been destroyed, and 2 more were heavily damaged. The human fleet had lost only a handful of vessels. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. The Galactic Council members, who had fled to Andromeda, received reports that seemed too incredible to believe. Not only had the humans defeated a Devourer fleet, they had done it decisively. How is this possible? Admiral Kexthara demanded. The humans have inferior technology and smaller numbers. They should have been consumed weeks ago. Cephalon had been studying human military history, trying to understand their success. What he found amazed him. "They've been fighting each other for their entire history," he explained. "Every human conflict has taught them new ways to overcome superior odds. They're not just warriors, they're innovators." The Cerulean tactician showed recordings of human battles throughout history. Humans had always found ways to defeat enemies who were stronger, faster, or better equipped. They used terrain, weather, psychology, and improvisation as weapons. "They don't just fight with their bodies," Cephalon continued. "They fight with their minds. And right now, they're thinking of ways to defeat an enemy that we thought was invincible." On Earth, the victory at Jupiter was celebrated, but the military leaders knew the war was far from over. The main Devourer fleet was still approaching, and it was much larger than the force they had just defeated. "We've proven they can be beaten," General Morrison told the assembled commanders. "Now we need to figure out how to beat all of them." Dr. Reed's team was already working on improvements to the quantum disruptor. The device had worked perfectly, but it needed to be more powerful to affect the entire Devourer fleet. "We need a weapon that can disrupt their communication across the entire star system," Dr. Reed explained. "Something that will turn their coordination into complete chaos." The work continued around the clock. Human factories produced weapons and ships at an unprecedented rate. Scientists developed new technologies based on captured alien materials. Soldiers trained for the final battle that would determine the fate of humanity. The galaxy watched in amazement as the species they had dismissed as primitive prepared to face the greatest threat in galactic history. The humans had already achieved the impossible by surviving this long. Now they were preparing to do something even more incredible: win the war. The final battle began when the Devourer nest ship entered the Sol system. The massive creature was bigger than Earth's moon, its organic hull pulsing with the combined life force of 1,000 consumed worlds. Around it swarmed dozens of smaller bioships, each one the size of a city. Admiral Beth Collins stood on the bridge of the flagship, Defiance, watching the enemy fleet approach. The human fleet was spread throughout the solar system, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier was ready for the battle that would decide humanity's fate. "All units, this is Admiral Collins," she announced over the communication system. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every world the Devourers have consumed. Today we show the galaxy what human courage looks like." The Devourer nest ship moved toward Earth with the same methodical precision it had shown throughout the galaxy. Its sensors detected the human fleet, but the aliens showed no concern. They had faced dozens of species before, and all had fallen to their overwhelming power. But the humans had spent months preparing for this moment. The quantum disruptor had been rebuilt and improved. Dr. Reed's team had created a device powerful enough to disrupt the Devourer hive mind across the entire solar system. The enhanced migraine device is ready. Dr. Reed reported from the research station on Mars. "But we need to get it close to the nest ship for maximum effect." Colonel Nick Foster commanded the Special Forces team assigned to plant the device. His soldiers had trained for this mission for months, studying every piece of intelligence about Devourer bioships. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew the consequences of failure. "Remember," Foster told his team as they prepared to board their assault pods, "we're not trying to survive this mission. We're trying to save the human race." The battle began with the familiar human tactics. Small ships darted in and out of the Devourer formation, firing missiles and retreating before the aliens could respond. But this time, the harassment was coordinated on a massive scale. Captain Walker commanded a squadron of the newest human warships. These vessels were armed with weapons that had never been seen before in galactic warfare. Projectile cannons that fired depleted uranium slugs at incredible speeds, missiles that could change course mid-flight, and energy weapons that focused all their power into narrow beams. "Hit them hard and fast," Walker ordered. "Don't give them time to coordinate." The human ships struck like a swarm of angry hornets. They attacked from every direction, using the asteroids and planets as cover. The Devourers tried to respond, but their weapons were designed for battles against organized fleets, not chaotic swarms. Amy Stone led a group of reconnaissance ships in a daring attack on the nest ship's outer defenses. Her mission was to clear a path for Foster's assault team. The bioship's surface was covered with defensive organisms that would attack any approaching vessel. "Stone to all units," she reported. "The nest ship's defenses are stronger than we expected. We need a bigger distraction." General Narration, coordinating the battle from Earth's command center, made a decision that would be remembered for generations. All reserve fleets converge on the nest ship. Give Foster's team the opening they need. Hundreds of human ships moved toward the massive bioship. They came from every direction, their weapons blazing. The Devourer's perfect coordination began. To break down under the sheer chaos of the assault, Foster's team launched their assault pods during the height of the battle. The small vessels were barely visible against the backdrop of the massive conflict, but they carried the weapon that could end the war. The journey to the nest ship's surface was a nightmare of defensive fire and organic weapons. Half of Foster's team was destroyed before they reached their target. But the survivors pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure meant extinction. "We're inside the bioship," Foster reported as his team cut through the organic hull. "Beginning. Search for the neural center." The interior of the nest ship was like a living nightmare. Walls pulsed with alien life. Corridors shifted and changed as the creature tried to trap the intruders. Strange organisms attacked the humans, but Foster's team fought their way deeper into the ship. Meanwhile, the space battle raged around the nest ship. The Devourers were taking heavy casualties, but they were also inflicting damage on the human fleet. Admiral Collins watched as ship after ship was destroyed by the aliens' powerful weapons. "We're losing too many ships," reported her tactical officer. "The fleet won't be able to maintain this assault much longer." Collins made a decision that would define her legacy. "All remaining ships, ram the bioships. Take them down with us." The order was met with immediate compliance. Human ships that were too damaged to continue fighting turned themselves into weapons. They drove straight into the bioships, their crews singing battle songs as they died. The tactic shocked the Devourers. In thousands of years of warfare, they had never encountered an enemy willing to sacrifice everything for victory. The aliens. Confidence began to crack as their bioships were destroyed by kamikaze attacks. Deep inside the nest ship, Foster's team reached the neural center. The chamber was vast, filled with pulsing organic computers that controlled the entire Devourer fleet. At the center of the room was a massive brain-like structure that served as the hive mind's core. "This is it," Foster said, activating the quantum disruptor, the heart of their operation. Sergeant Maya Thompson, the last surviving member of Foster's team, helped him plant the device. The enhanced migraine weapon was the size of a small car, its quantum generators humming with deadly energy. "How long do we have?" Thompson asked. 30 seconds, Foster replied. "Then this thing will scramble every quantum connection in the solar system." The countdown began. Around them, the nest ship's defenses were trying to reach the neural center. Organic weapons fired at the sealed doors. Defensive organisms poured acid on the barriers. But the humans had built their defenses well. 10 seconds, Foster announced. "Thompson, it's been an honor serving with you." "Same here, Colonel," she replied. "See you on the other side." The quantum disruptor activated with a flash of light that could be seen throughout the solar system. The effect was immediate and devastating. The devourer hive mind, which had connected the aliens across vast distances for millennia, suddenly went silent. The bioships stopped moving in formation. They began attacking each other, their organic weapons firing randomly. The perfect coordination that had made them unstoppable became chaos that destroyed them. Admiral Collins watched in amazement as the devourer fleet tore itself apart. All units,